Have you ever wondered what it takes to survive when the entire world wants you dead? When your very existence becomes a threat to everyone around you, and generation after generation, people whisper that your family should have been wiped out decades ago. Deep in the remote hollers of Appalachia, where civilization barely reaches and ancient superstitions run thicker than blood, two families have defied every odd, every curse, and every attempt to erase them from existence. So before you take comfortable, take a minute to like and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you tuning in from and what time it is for you. Tonight, we're exploring two family lineages that have somehow persevered through events that should have destroyed them completely. Events so catastrophic, so inexplicable, that locals still refuse to speak their names above a whisper. These aren't your typical mountain families who simply endured hard times. These are bloodlines that have survived things that shouldn't be survivable, carrying secrets that have kept them alive when logic says they should be nothing more than forgotten graves in overgrown cemeteries. The first family we need to discuss are the Kempers of Bone Ridge, Virginia. Their story begins in 1894 when Patriarch Jeremiah Kemper made a discovery in the deepest cave system of the Blue Ridge Mountains that changed his family's fate forever. What Jeremiah found in those limestone chambers wasn't gold or coal, but something far more valuable and infinitely more dangerous. The Kempers learned to survive by embracing what others feared most, turning their greatest weakness into their ultimate strength. For over 130 years, the Kemper bloodline has endured disasters that have claimed entire communities around them. The Great Flood of 1927 that wiped out 7 towns. The Kempers emerged without losing a single family member. The tuberculosis outbreak of 1943 that killed nearly half the population of Bone Ridge County. Every Kemper survived while their neighbors perished. The mining disasters, the forest fires, the mysterious disappearances that have plagued the region for decades. Somehow the Kempers always walk away unscathed. But their survival hasn't come without a price. Locals describe the Kemper compound as a place where normal rules don't apply. Visitors report that compasses spin wildly on their property, that photographs taken there develop with strange shadows that weren't visible to the naked eye, and that livestock refuse to graze within a half-mile radius of their land. The family themselves display unusual characteristics that become more pronounced with each generation. Their eyes reflect light, like nocturnal animals. They possess an uncanny ability to predict natural disasters days before they occur, and most disturbing of all, they age at a rate that defies medical explanation. The current Kemper patriarch, Ezekiel, claims to be 89 years old, but county birth records show he was born in 1892, making him well over 130. When questioned about this discrepancy, family members simply smile and change the subject. Medical professionals who have examined the Kempers describe their physiology as anomalous, with bone density twice that of normal humans and internal organ arrangements that don't match standard anatomy textbooks. What makes the Kemper survival story even more remarkable is the sheer number of attempts to eliminate them. Between 1920 and 1960, 3 separate groups tried to drive the family from Bone Ridge through violence and intimidation. Federal marshals, local militias, and even a group of concerned citizens organized raids on the Kemper compound. None of these efforts succeeded, and many of the participants were found days later wandering in the woods with no memory of what had transpired. The most documented attempt occurred in 1952 when a coalition of local law enforcement and National Guard units surrounded the Kemper property, demanding they surrender for questioning about multiple disappearances in the area. Witnesses describe what happened next as impossible. As the sun set, a thick fog rolled down from the mountains, enveloping the entire compound. When the mist cleared at dawn, the law enforcement vehicles were found arranged in a perfect circle, their occupants unconscious but unharmed. The officers reported identical dreams of walking through endless underground tunnels filled with symbols carved into stone walls. Perhaps most unsettling about the Kemper survival story is how they've adapted to the modern world. While maintaining their isolated mountain existence, they've somehow acquired vast wealth and political influence. Shell companies linked to the Kemper name own significant portions of Virginia's mineral rights, and several state politicians have been photographed visiting their compound, though none will discuss the nature of these meetings. The second family that defies all logic in their continued existence are the Blackwoods of Devil's Backbone, West Virginia. If the Kempers survived through adaptation, the Blackwoods have endured through pure, inexplicable resilience. Their story is one of the most documented cases of a family surviving repeated catastrophes that should have ended their bloodline multiple times over. The Blackwood Curse, and as locals call it, began in 1826 when the family patriarch, Silas Blackwood, was the sole survivor of a mine collapse that killed 47 men. The official report stated that Silas was found 3 days after the cave-in, buried under tons of rock and timber, without food or water, yet somehow still alive and conscious. The rescue team described his condition as miraculous, with injuries that should have been fatal completely healed. This pattern of impossible survival has repeated throughout Blackwood history with disturbing consistency. In 1899, a house fire that reached temperatures hot enough to melt metal left the Blackwood family home completely destroyed, yet all 7 family members were found unharmed in the basement, despite the fact that the basement stairs had been consumed by flames. The local fire chief noted that the family showed no signs of smoke inhalation, and their clothes weren't even singed. During the influenza pandemic of 1918, every member of the Blackwood extended family contracted the disease. In surrounding communities, the mortality rate reached nearly 40%, but not a single Blackwood died. More puzzling still, medical records from that time show that several family members were declared clinically dead by attending physicians, only to recover completely within hours of their supposed demise. The most well-documented Blackwood survival incident occurred during World War II. 3 Blackwood brothers were serving in different theaters of the war when each was reported killed in action within the same month. Military records show death certificates were filed for all 3 men. Yet in 1945, all 3 brothers returned to Devil's Backbone, alive and apparently uninjured. When questioned by military investigators, the brothers claimed they had no memory of their supposed deaths or the circumstances surrounding them. What makes the Blackwood case particularly intriguing is the physical evidence of their survival abilities. Family members bear scars from injuries that should have killed them, yet they display no lasting effects from these traumas. Medical examinations reveal that Blackwood family members heal at rates that exceed normal human capabilities by a factor of 10. Broken bones mend in days rather than weeks, and deep lacerations close without leaving permanent marks. The family's survival abilities seem to strengthen during times of greatest peril. During natural disasters, when other families evacuate the area, the Blackwoods remain on their property and emerge completely unscathed. Hurricane-force winds that level entire forests somehow calm when they reach Blackwood land. Flash floods that wash away bridges and buildings mysteriously part around their homestead like water flowing around a stone. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the Blackwood survival phenomenon is how it affects those around them. Neighbors report that spending extended time near Blackwood family members results in vivid nightmares and a persistent feeling of being watched. Several attempts to study the family scientifically have ended abruptly when researchers abandoned their work, citing ethical concerns they refuse to elaborate upon. Both the Kempers and the Blackwoods represent something that challenges our understanding of human limitation and survival. Their continued existence raises questions that most people aren't comfortable asking. In the remote mountains of Appalachia, where old ways die hard and newer mysteries take root in ancient soil, these two families stand as living proof that some bloodlines carry secrets darker than the hollows they call home. The most chilling aspect of both families isn't just their survival, it's how their very existence seems to warp reality around them. Recent investigations have uncovered patterns that suggest these families don't just endure catastrophes, they somehow absorb the energy from these disasters, growing stronger with each brush with death. In 2019, a team of genealogists attempted to trace the Kemper and Blackwood family trees, hoping to understand the source of their unusual longevity. What they discovered defied conventional understanding of genetics and heredity. Both family lines show impossible gaps in their genealogical records, with entire generations appearing and disappearing from official documentation without explanation. More disturbing still, DNA analysis revealed that current family members share genetic markers with ancestors who supposedly died over 150 years ago. The Kempers have begun expanding their influence beyond Bone Ridge, with family members appearing in major cities across the eastern seaboard. These urban Kempers maintain the same unusual characteristics as their mountain relatives, but they've learned to blend into modern society with unsettling effectiveness. Corporate executives, federal employees, and academic researchers bearing the Kemper name have surfaced in positions of significant influence, all claiming no knowledge of their Appalachian heritage when questioned. Meanwhile, the Blackwoods have taken a different approach to their survival strategy. Rather than expanding outward, they've begun consolidating power within their traditional territory. Recent land purchases have given the family control over nearly 40,000 acres of West Virginia wilderness, creating what amounts to their own private kingdom. Satellite imagery of Blackwood territory reveals construction projects that don't appear on any building permits, including what appears to be an extensive underground facility network. Local emergency services have quietly established protocols for incidents involving either family. Paramedics report that standard medical procedures don't work on Kempers or Blackwoods, with their bodies rejecting conventional treatments while healing through means that can't be medically explained. Fire departments have noted that blazes on either family's property burn differently, consuming some materials while leaving others completely untouched in patterns that make no scientific sense. Perhaps most unsettling are the recent reports from children in surrounding communities. Elementary school teachers describe drawings made by local children that consistently feature the same disturbing imagery: tall figures with reflecting eyes standing in forests, underground chambers filled with symbols, and families that don't die when they're supposed to. These children have no direct contact with either the Kempers or Blackwoods, yet their artwork displays remarkable consistency in depicting these families' unusual characteristics. The federal government has maintained surveillance on both families since the 1960s, though most records remain classified. Declassified documents from that era reference something called Project Persistence, a study aimed at understanding anomalous survival patterns in isolated populations. The project was abruptly terminated in 1971, with all research materials sealed under national security classifications that remain in effect today. What makes these families truly terrifying isn't their ability to survive, it's their apparent immunity to the natural order that governs the rest of humanity. Death, aging, and physical limitations seem to operate under different rules for the Kempers and Blackwoods. They exist as living reminders that in the deepest corners of Appalachia, where ancient mountains have witnessed things that predate human understanding, some bloodlines have made bargains that transcend mortality itself. As climate change and natural disasters become more frequent, both families have begun exhibiting even stranger behaviors. Meteorologists have noted that severe weather systems consistently weaken or change direction when approaching Kemper or Blackwood territories. Seismologists report that earthquake activity in the region follows patterns that seem to avoid areas under their control, as if the earth itself recognizes their dominion. The question isn't how these families have survived so long, it's what they've become in the process. Their continued existence suggests that survival sometimes requires abandoning humanity itself, embracing something older and more primal than civilization can comprehend. So the next time you find yourself driving through the remote backroads of Appalachia, remember that some family names should never be spoken aloud, and some homesteads should never be approached after dark. The Kempers and Blackwoods didn't just survive against impossible odds, they've evolved beyond them, becoming something that exists in the spaces between life and death, between human and something else entirely. These mountains have kept their secrets for millions of years, and some bloodlines have learned to become part of those secrets. In the end, maybe the real question isn't how they've survived this long, but whether the rest of us can survive their continued existence. If this exploration into Appalachia's most persistent mysteries left you questioning what else might be hiding in those ancient hills, make sure you're subscribed for more investigations into places where reality bends and families carry secrets darker than the hollows they call home. Trust me, the mountains have many more stories to tell, and not all of them